Good morning, everyone out there in webinar land. We thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Kevin Wilson, and you are tuned into The Beacon. This is Dominion Payroll's ongoing webinar series, where we bring you insights and perspective from around the business community to help you navigate today's challenges and rise to meet the opportunities ahead. Everything from legislative updates and analysis to industry spotlights and sharing the stories of folks' entrepreneurial journeys that you might not hear otherwise. This is The Beacon, and we are here for you every Wednesday at 11 a.m. I am really excited to welcome this expert panel that we have today. But before I do any introductions, just a couple housekeeping measures. Any questions that you do have for our guests, please drop those in the Q&A function, and we'll work those into the conversation. Please avoid the chat. We record these conversations so that folks can view them at a later date should they so choose. And the Q&A plays nicely with that while the chat disappears into the ether. As always, we at Dominion Payroll are here for you for all of your questions, whether it's related to outdoor tourism in the local economy or the FFCRA, the PPP loans, and all the other alphabet soup that we've grown to know and love over the last several months. You're always welcome to reach out to questions@dominionpayroll.com or visit us at dominionpayroll.com, where you can see all of our upcoming webinars and access a whole host of resources to help you run your business and serve your employees these days. Okay, enough about DP. Here we are, Wednesday morning. I am really excited to dig into this topic. As we've navigated the last several months, I know that I'm guilty of this, and so many other people are. We've taken a lot of our activities outside, whether that's walking the dog for an extra mile or taking those trips to the mountain, the Blue Ridge, or just really getting outside and seeing the James River. That's an activity that has sort of kept me sane and so many others. We've brought together a fantastic panel to talk about outdoor activities, recreation, and the tourism that sort of is behind that industry, and talk about that impact that it has on our local economy, something that has never been too far from the headlines over the last several months. So without further ado, it's my great pleasure to welcome Rita Mcclenny. Rita is the president and CEO of the Virginia Tourism Corporation. She's charged with promoting Virginia as a tourist and film making location. And we'll dig into some of the numbers, but I think just a fantastic job. And I'm really excited to sort of learn about the navigating of tourism and promotion through admittedly very challenging times. Rita, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Kevin. So delightful to be here and to share with your audience. This is a great topic and can't wait to dig in.
Awesome. Next up, we have Rod Kessler, who's the general manager of Wintergreen Resort, joining us today from Nelly's Ford, Virginia. Been in the position there about 4.5 years, but also we can't have this conversation without alluding to over 25 years experience in Colorado, British Columbia, Vermont, just a wealth of expertise on managing the ostensibly small cities on the tops of these mountains, the resort community, the skiing, the outdoor adventure, and everything that goes into it. Really excited to learn about your experience over the last several months, but really also the commitment that you bring to Wintergreen, making it a year-round activity-centered a place to be. Rod, thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to the next 30 minutes.
Fantastic. And last but certainly not least, Penelope Davenport is joining us. She is the outdoor education supervisor for the James River Park system. Penelope takes a look at her role and the role of the James River Park system as an incubator for bringing in young adventurers, environmentalists, and really just a place for people to jump off with their love of the outdoors, and a big focus on an increase of access to people from all walks of life, all different ability levels. And I think that we're seeing both from the pressure of the pandemic, but also the great work that you all are doing. You guys recently posted some big numbers. 2.1 million people visited the James River Park system in 2020 alone. So that is really exciting. Penelope, thank you for being here.
Thank you for including me.
Absolutely. Well, look, I always try to do my best to give a quick synopsis of who my guests are, but I think that our audience always benefits from hearing directly from each of you. And Rita, I'm hoping that you're able to start us off and just tell us a little bit about your journey into running the Virginia Tourism Corporation and the mission that you all serve day to day.
Oh, absolutely, Kevin. I'm a Virginian and so proud and love promoting our beautiful state. And my background is in business, economic development. And I started out in the film office for 20 years and promoting all the great locations that we have and presenting them to filmmakers around the globe. And we have a beautiful filmography and all of the excellent productions that have filmed here in Virginia. And you can't ever get around. You can't turn on the television and not see Dirty Dancing, right? So we really have some iconic films that were produced in the Commonwealth, Steven Spielberg's Lincoln, and the list goes on. Then let's go to tourism. So I was then appointed by Governor McDonald to lead the tourism corporation known as the Virginia Tourism Authority. And our mission is to generate revenue for Virginia's wonderful economy from the hospitality industry standpoint and from film production. And our really, stakeholder base is statewide, and we have so many great partnerships around the Commonwealth because, from cliff to coast, Virginia has it all.
I think you really nailed it on the head there. The access from Central Virginia to the beautiful mountains, to the beach, the rolling Piedmont, and then 90 miles south of the nation's capital. It's a gem. It really is. I had the pleasure of living abroad for a couple of years, and every time I describe where I was from, people would say, well, "What are you doing over here?" It sounds like you come from a great place.
And our location has really benefited us during this unprecedented time because people are traveling via their vehicles, whether it's RV, camper, auto, pickup truck, motorcycle, whatever the case may be. People are driving about 300 miles, and they have found themselves in Virginia because we have access to about half of the population of the country from Virginia in a day's drive.
That's fantastic. I have to just a quick little anecdote before Rod, I turn to you. In a former life, it feels like years and years ago, I owned a small sushi restaurant, and I actually was craft services on set of John Adams and got to make sushi for Tom Hanks. And so that's
a great story.
A completely different, career and turn of events, but something that, is just a fond memory and connection to filming here in Virginia.
Thanks for sharing that.
Sure. Rod, I'd love to turn to you. I mean, it sounds like you have just a wealth of expertise on running sort of this adventure location, but also the nice amenities that come with a resort, everything from food and just all of it. Tell us a little bit about the path that you've taken to be GM there at Wintergreen.
Well, first of all, Rita, that's great to hear all those goodies. I mean, these things are fun because you learn so much from everybody. So my background, my path, grew up in the Midwest. I'm a Buckeye, and proud to be a Buckeye despite our performance in the national championship. But that said, spent a lot of time out west as a kid, and in the mountains and horseback riding, climbing, hiking, skiing, and had to make a decision on my path. And I dabbled in the restaurant business after I got out of school, and didn't really want to come home at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, every day, and just started gravitating towards the ski business. And I learned the ski business from the ground up. Pretty much have worked in all the departments, whether it's food and beverage, snowmaking, grooming, lifts, construction. As time went on, became, just more responsible for more departments, golf construction, tennis, and ultimately human resources and marketing. And so I really worked from the ground up. And one of the things that really has caught me in the last, couple of decades is, the challenges that we have around the environment. And I have this internal penchant to educate as many people as we possibly can how to enjoy the outdoors in a safe and confident way. And my vision is the more we educate, the more chance we have to save it. And with that said, ski areas and these fragile environments really have to be sensitive to their footprint there. And so that's been part of my process and kind of one of my cornerstones relative to operations. Managing P&Ls, profitability, sustainability, all that kind of comes together in an educational piece for me. I've learned a lot along the way, as I've said, what not to do. And I've been fortunate enough to have some really good mentors along the way in Vermont and British Columbia and Colorado and now here. This is my first experience in the Southeast. And yeah, absolutely. Mountains, beautiful old mountains, ocean, everything in between. Really nice growing season too. But one of my missions here, primary missions here, is to somewhat balance our heavy dependency on winter with a more summer or spring, summer, fall business model. So that's currently what's going on and where my head's at.
I love that. And I think that gives us a really great transition to Penelope, both from an environmental standpoint and that year-round perspective of how to engage in the outdoor environment in a way that's both responsible, but engaging for everybody involved. Penelope, I know that you had a bit of a pivot in terms of going from art history to the James River Park system. Tell us a little bit about that, and tell us about how expansive is the park system that you work for.
Absolutely. Well, and it's also just such fun to hear from Rita and Rod and hear kind of all the crossovers. I learned how to ski at Wintergreen, and I worked for one season as a ski instructor there, but I didn't make it for very long as an instructor. But Wintergreen is definitely an area of the state that is really close to my heart. So it's a pleasure to be on the panel with you, and it's fun, Rita, to hear sort of that expansive picture, because and then I also have family out in Norfolk. So I'm from Virginia. I love Virginia a lot, and love Richmond especially. And I'm really curious, Rod, about sort of specifically what direction year-round sports and what that's going to look like at Wintergreen kind of into the future. But I guess, I'm sorry, I'll talk about myself first, and then I want to hear more about that. But I especially kind of highlighting what you were saying about moving, the more we educate, kind of the more chance we have to save an ecology or these fragile environments. And that's really at the root of what I do as the education supervisor in James River. Our mission is to improve access to James River Park system and then green spaces within the city more broadly, especially for Richmond City residents. But as we've seen with those numbers, that 2.1 million, really for all visitors, for everyone who kind of comes to live and work and play in Richmond. So we feel very lucky to be such a popular amenity for the city, but that education is really at the heart of what I do, and that we hope it's part of every visitor's experience, whether they're a resident or not, to James River Park system. So we have kind of two broad umbrellas under outdoor education. We do adventure education and environmental education, but we really try to weave those together as frequently as possible. So for example, if we have a summer camp where we're teaching mountain biking to a young group of students, we'll also try to throw in like tree identification and native species identification and kind of a conversation about what invasive species are doing to our local ecology, into the same moment of like how to ride a berm and how to hit that sick drop. And so we sort of try to do a little bit of everything in that regard.
Wonderful. Rita, I'd like to turn to you, and I think that we've sort of highlighted an engagement perspective and an ecological perspective on all of this, but I think that it's certainly not lost on anybody that there's sort of a bottom line to this conversation. And if these activities are generating money and interest, then there's more political willpower to protect and to preserve and to promote. Can you tell us a little bit about the dollars and cents of attracting folks to the Great Commonwealth here in Virginia? And maybe I'm not sure if ecological tourism is something that is high on your list that you're paying attention to, but that would be great to hear a little commentary on.
Absolutely, it is. And I'd like to just start because we've all spoken about sustainability and protection and preserving our environment for future generations. So one of the foremost principles that we promote at Virginia Tourism with respect to outdoor and people coming to enjoy our outdoor assets is the follow the 7 leave no trace principles, which are number 1, plan ahead and prepare. Number 2, camp on durable surfaces. Number 3, dispose of your waste properly. Number 4, leave what you find for someone else to enjoy. Number 5, minimize campfire impacts. Number 6, respect the wildlife. Don't poke at the animals. And number 7, be considerate of other visitors. So with all of that, if everyone is, leave it better than you found it, and just to have fun responsibly, it really just makes a whole difference that we all participate. And the outdoor traveler spends on average $918 for a trip, and that's about 3.3 nights. And they're visiting our national parks, our state parks, the beaches, they're going to our mountains, and a lot of scenic driving enjoyment is in there. So those are the top activities. But you can't get shopping, and of course, dining is all wrapped in there. And mostly the visitors are coming from the region. They're coming from Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, North Carolina, mostly Greensboro, Raleigh, and Charlotte area. So that's, and 79% of them are traveling by vehicle. And if we look at the economic impact, we were at $27 billion for the impact for 2019. We're going to be off almost half of that for the revenue that we're generating that would have been generated in 2020. That's the estimate. So it was a devastating impact to all of our hospitality sector, including hotels, restaurants, and everything in between, our, retail establishments, and just our beautiful, resorts and just the outdoor areas. And now, but of that, outdoor is the winner when we look at where people ended up going and where they were when they did venture out safely. They were going where they could be outside in a safe way.
That's really tremendous. Thinking that you said $900 some a day. I mean, that shakes out to an average of almost $3,000 a person coming to the state.
Well, $918 for the 3-day trip.
Oh, okay.
3.3 days and spending $918.
Okay.
For that trip.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly nothing to sneeze at. And I know that it's no secret that restaurant and retail has been hit particularly hard over the last couple of months. But I think that as you alluded to, there's a bright spot in the outdoor activity and everything that comes from that. Rod, I'm wondering if you could tell us, your experience over the last couple of months, and particularly coming here into the winter. Have you seen a similar drop? Have you guys found a way to navigate the difficulties of, there's safety and practicality issues. I was encouraged to hear that you guys had something like 25 slopes open over this past weekend. So, there's people out there cutting through the powder, so that's good.
Well, yeah, we've seen a similar drop as well. We had to, we had to understand and relate with and execute with the governor's expectations on capacities. So we adjusted our capacity program. And we've taken it probably the hardest in food and beverage. Lodging early on, in March when lodging was, shut down. What we did is we formed a task force immediately. By the end of March, we had a task force, actually a week after the announcement, on the shutdowns, we had a task force in place. And we just started really examining, what was in front of us to the extent that we knew it. And we recognized, probably at the same pace everybody else did, we didn't really have control of it. But our industry, specifically the ski industry and the National Skiers Association, did a really good job of ramping up and getting webinars and just, a lot of Zoom calls and educational sessions all summer. And so most of the members participated on the task force, and other key staff and employees participated in the education process over the course of the summer. I likened it to a Rubik's Cube every day. In fact, I bought a dozen Rubik's Cubes for my family for Christmas with a little bit note about, this is what I do every day. Then they're doing the same. So similar drop, that ties to, what the state was seeing and Rita was pointing to. And then moving to different technologies to, for touchless primarily. And, we have some odd about a dozen different pieces of software within our organization that are working and talking to each other. And we had to just break it and figure out how to implement this new technology. And so the industry, and I think everybody's similar, everybody's done the same thing for so many years, for decades. Our patterns have been the same on how we buy and how we eat out and how we get gas and everything. And then it's all thrown out.
Yeah.
And you have to learn something new. And that's awkward at best. And we did this, almost as a world in 6 months?
Yeah.
4 months, once you figure out what you think you want to do. And so you think you want to do it, and then you try to do it and it won't work, and you got to adjust again. And so you have to be nimble and fast on your feet. What we found is winter has been our busy period historically, that the first couple of weeks of getting big visitor days and a full hotel and so forth, there was a lot of tension among staff being prepared and guests on what to expect. And so we've done a video, we've done some how-tos, we've ramped our communications, our training to our staff was tenfold of what it ever has been. And people started to get it, right? Okay, there's a new process, it will work. A couple kinks along the way, those lessons, but it has smoothed out and it's operating pretty well at the moment. We are a mile wide and an inch deep, and we talk about that a lot here. We have 11 different restaurants. Well, we're operating 2.5, right? So that's a challenge. We've got golf on the mountain, golf in the valley. We're playing a lot of golf this winter, and skiing. We have tennis on the mountain. We have tennis in the valley. On the mountain, it's inside. So, we have our fingers in a whole lot of things that we had to pivot. So that was complex for us. To tie that up, I would say that probably the biggest challenge has been staffing. And leadership positions have been very stable, or what positions were open, we could quickly fill. The front lines have been really challenging.
Sure.
For us, and continue to be challenging. And we've gone through our compensation structures, we've gone through our benefit programs, we're enhancing all of that, or have enhanced all of that, and that's proving to be beneficial. And just a note on the side, we're something well over 6 figures in investing, over 100,000 in just PPP for our employees.
Wow.
And there's that in the back of their mind because we're high frequency guest contact.
Yeah.
How do I protect myself? Do I really want to come to work? And so we've had to really work hard on that. So far, so good.
Yeah. A lot in there. And Rod, I know that you have an obligation that's going to pull you away here shortly. I wanted to give you an opportunity really just to sort of say, what is your outlook going forward? If you could comment maybe on the year-round seasonality of Wintergreen,
Well, yeah, so the spring, summer, fall, it needs a lot more attention than we've given it in the past, and we've begun that process. Last year, we had, a year and a half ago, we had an outdoor theater, which was really successful. It ran in September into October, and the idea of being outdoor, it was Sound of Music, so, our mountains fit it. There was development programs for kids to learn about theater and staging and how to write the copy, and it was really invigorating for that time of the year for us, which typically can be very slow. Where we want to go and we're planning to go in the future is to more youth programming in the summertime. We have Lake Monacan down in the valley, which has a nice beach. It's a wonderful lake to learn how to paddle, whether it's kayak, whether it's SUP or a canoe. The outdoors for the kids, from my view, is there's so much connection with devices now that we need to just pull them away and get them in that comfort zone through education outdoors. Much as has been mentioned, it could be a partnership going on here. We'd start to form. And I also believe that if the kids are happy outdoors, the parents are going to be happy too. And we have the traditional sports with the golf and tennis and hiking for them as well. Our current focus right now is to, from a sales perspective, is to sell what we know we can with our limits set by the governor. That said, we're very excited about the second half of third quarter and fourth quarter. And so we're developing a lot of our plans, for that window. We're excited about it. We think there's likely to be a lift very similar to 2019 and then some. And 22 looks really promising to us.
Great. Well, good things ahead for sure. Penelope, I want to turn to you as we, you capitalize on going from 1.9 million visitors to 2.1 million. Obviously you want to build on that momentum. What are some of the strategies that the James River Park system is using to keep people coming back and to keep them engaged?
Sure. Well, it's kind of funny that you frame it that way because the pandemic has been really different for the park landscape than I think it has been for any other kind of like large scale businesses. Because not just in James River, but sort of across the board, we're really seeing this uptick, this increase in visitation kind of nationally, almost to the point of which we would classify ourselves as being loved to death. We are not actively seeking more visitors. We're just seeking to improve the experience of the visitors who do come to our park. Our most recent economic impact data is now a few years old, but we do track it as that the park system itself, based on a $1.5 million visitation, generates approximately $33.5 million per year in tourism dollars. And that's just tourism. Then we can also, our economic impact data also projects that for every foot closer to a park boundary, there's approximately a $9,000, for every quarter mile closer to a park boundary, property values increase by about $9,000. And again, that data is only a few years old. And with property values having increased so much in the past year as well, we believe that our economic impact is projected even higher than those numbers might say, but we don't have the data to back that up. So again, we really are focused more on ensuring that everyone is able to avail themselves of the emotional, physical, mental health benefits of being in outside spaces, especially in an urban center like Richmond, during a time like COVID, so making sure that they are safe when they do that. We've really pivoted to a greater emphasis on our operations staff and making sure that they have what they need to make sure that the visitor experience is as positive as possible. And then also just capital improvements and large scale projects that ensure that our infrastructure is there to support people in getting outside and being able to recreate in a way that is safe and responsible.
Absolutely. Rita, I'd like to turn to you as we sort of, we've heard this phrase going back now for several months that we're all sort of in this together, and that's sort of been, let's support let's buy local, let's, it's the public-private partnership, and I'm curious, from your perspective. And I often ask my guests this, it's like, if you had 5 minutes in an elevator with the governor, what's the pitch? What's the thing that could be improved on, or what's working really well from your perspective? Is the legislative side of things, sort of the political power structure, is it helping or hurting right now?
Well, Kevin, it's all a mix. I mean, really. And I'll say that because none of us have ever been through anything like this.
Fair.
It was starting with a blank piece of paper. And we all had to, as Rod and Penelope have eloquently spoken, be creative, dig in, look at our technology, take on our partner investments and how we can come together in a highly collaborative way and make it work. So what we did initially, right after in March, was how can we keep our customers' attention and not lose them to whatever may be out there grabbing their attention. So a lot was happening online and virtually to seek inspiration. We came up with a program called Wanderlove, WANDERLOVE. And it was meant to be inspirational. We're ready where you are, and high engagement. We've gone with virtual wine tastings and beer tastings and outdoor tours, turning the camera, just anything that we could come up with. We took our marketing dollars, because we were not in paid media in that moment, and reverted everything to a grants program. So our partners could then promote their assets and their attractions, knowing that people in some cases were going outdoors. Because, until June, the governor said stay home. Yeah. So as an agency, we have to certainly follow the guidance and be good stewards. So we use technology. We were scaling up to be ready when people could safely venture out. And then we wanted to provide the resources for our partners to be able to talk about and use a megaphone for their product base and promotions. So really, it has been all about flexibility, nimbleness, open hearts, open minds, creativity, and patience.
I love that. Sorry, the joys of working from home. My 10-year-old and my dog wanted to see what I was up to, and momentarily distracted there.
We love sightings on Zoom. It's like the best thing ever, right?
It really is interesting. The insight that I've gotten into the lives of my coworkers has been pretty great.
Yeah, it's fun.
I know that Rod had to step out, and he had an obligation this afternoon that was pulling him away a little early, but I did just want to acknowledge and appreciate him taking the time to tell us about Wintergreen and the impact that the recreation tourism really has in the community of Nellies Ford, and really throughout the Shenandoah Valley and the Blue Ridge. Penelope, I'd love to turn to you. And one of my favorite things is hearing about some success stories. I think that 5 years out, we'll all sort of have our pandemic story that we share, and something that maybe sticks out above what can often feel like this sort of endless Groundhog's Day of repeated behavior. Having a workplace that is outdoor and so interactive. I'm curious if there's anything that you all have innovated on that you're just particularly proud of, where you've managed to stay relevant while also navigating all these challenges.
Sure. I mean, I do think that those visitation numbers do speak for themselves. I'm sorry. Also, pandemic challenges. My daughter is enjoying this call as well. But yeah, I do think that 2.1 million number is a big one. It is the first time we've been approximating that we're at 2 million visitors for the last few years, but this is the first time where we really have had a full count over 2 million. So I believe that we are continuing and maybe even improving upon being relevant to the local community more than ever, as people find ways to stay healthy, and by being physically fit, by getting outside, by taking the dog for that extra mile, those kinds of things. So generally that would be, I believe that the number itself is a success story. More specifically, the programs that I run, we had to pretty much completely scrap, because everything we do is in person, and almost everything we do is with significantly larger than 8 people. So my education staff this summer did pivot to offer, we called it Camp in a Box, and I know that a lot of people were doing kind of camp kits, kind of nationally, but I was really particularly proud of the work that my staff put into that, and the product that we produced as a result of that. We essentially, with each kit and each camp that we produced, created 3 camps in each one, so that there was a live interactive Zoom component to each camp. There were pre-recorded videos, but then every single kit came with written instructions and all the materials, so that if parents chose to completely opt out of technology, have no screen time at all of camp could take place, and there could be like a good quality program to happen with children, with each other, with siblings, with their small family pods or units, that was completely independent of all of this Zoom time that we're putting our kids through, for better and for worse. So I was really proud of that. I was also really proud of the videos and the live calls that they did associated with that. And we did have really positive feedback from families and from students about making that relevant. And then kind of building on there, over the course of the fall, we've partnered with Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, which is a nonprofit based in Annapolis, has a Richmond office, and is Chesapeake Bay watershed wide, to offer a series of professional development opportunities, primarily geared toward Richmond public school teachers. And with the pandemic, our focus has pivoted. The title of the PD series, I apologize, is Come Outside to Teach. So the plan was to take all the teachers outside and teach this, but since we are doing it virtually, we have pivoted a little bit to assisting teachers with a wide variety of tech tools that can be used both synchronously and asynchronously, so that they can take that tool, use it with their class for just a moment, but then use the tech tool to get the kids outside and to get the kids away from the computers. So I feel like that's been really lovely. It's been a bright spot in my year for sure, interacting with those teachers and hearing their success stories.
I love that. One of the things that has been so clear is that, and Rod sort of alluded to this, but we've all got to experience sort of our roles or our organizations with fresh eyes, and we've been sort of free to innovate in the last several months, throw everything against the wall, see what sticks, and iterate on that. Rita, I'm curious, from a statewide perspective, as you look around, you interact with a ton of different constituents and players in this space. Has there been any innovative stories out there that have really stuck with you, where as you're like, gosh, the town of Danville is doing something really exciting, or certain companies that are navigating this in a way that stands out to you? Did any stories rise to the surface for you?
Yes, I think what really rises up, and I can't understate the impact of partnerships and people coming together knowing that they really, really need each other. And it has become essential. And I think heretofore too, we could operate a bit in our silos. We could say, these are my marketing dollars and this is my part of the pie, and just kind of, go forward business as usual. But what's happened is economic developers and chambers and the offices that manage tourism and hospitality understand that the revenue that has been lost because of visitor spending, whether they were in for a vacation, a meeting, a conference, a sporting event, a business search, an expansion project, whatever the reason, that a human being was traveling to Virginia and they were expending resources, financial, and if they then did not take that trip, it had an impact on every single locality every single locality in the Commonwealth of Virginia from a revenue production standpoint. So it says easily that the economy in Virginia will not fully rebound until we have hospitality, travel, people moving about freely and spending money. The economy won't fully recover. And I think that's what has become, phenomenally clear.
Yeah.
And it's empirical because the data says so.
Well, I think that is such sort of a great way to sort of summarize this conversation, in that that ability for us to have operated in the past as if we were siloed, as you said. We now recognize that it is this ecosystem that we live in, and that the dollars spent in any municipality, have knock-on ripple effects throughout the state, and have impacts in ways that we don't really think when we're buying a cup of coffee on the side of the road or a hotel stay or what have you. So I think that's a really fascinating perspective, and one that I hope that we hold on to as we move forward. Our
attractiveness goes from head to toe. The purse must match the shoes.
I love it. I always like to wrap up these conversations with an opportunity just to do a little shout out, shine a spotlight on your organization, and tell folks how they can connect with you. Penelope, tell folks near and far that are listening right now, what's the best way to go visit the James River Park, and what's your favorite thing to do in the James River Park system?
Well, as an outdoor educator, my two favorite things are whitewater kayaking and mountain biking. The best way to kind of figure out exactly, but there's such a wide variety of things to do in James River, and the best way to figure out what's going to be best suited for you is to go to one of our nonprofits websites, jamesriverpark.org. And then in there, under the visit tab, there's drop-down menus that show each parcel of the park system, all 660 acres, sort of best places for birding, best places for hiking, best places for kayaking, swimming, kind of all those things as the weather gets warmer. I would say, again, with regard to those high numbers, the other really important thing that you can do on that website is look for volunteer opportunities. We have a calendar there. And if you are local to Richmond, we have all kinds of different ways that you can support the park system while you're there to visit it. So I saw in the chat, someone said, pick up trash whenever you go. Absolutely. That is a fantastic way to do it. If you do it, send somebody at the park an email and let us know that you picked up some trash, and we can make sure that we thank you appropriately. So yeah, I would say volunteer opportunities are a big piece of what keep us going. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a great call to action and a great way for folks to get more closely connected with the park system. Rita, I know that asking you to name your favorite attraction in Virginia would be like asking you to pick your favorite kid or something along those lines. And so, but I'm curious, what are some of the highlights for you as you have the inside scoop on all the great stuff to do around Virginia?
I know, Kevin, that's an unfair question. Okay, so I will say this. If I can see it from horseback, I love it. So whatever that includes, which includes a lot across Virginia, that's enjoyable to me. But, in Virginia, we enjoy an exceptional quality of life. And travel and tourism is really the front door to economic development. And it's all a big partnership to make where we live the most vibrant place it can be, with great education and great development and great opportunity from now until the next 400 plus years. Absolutely.
And folks that are curious about Virginia tourism, where can they connect with your organization?
Virginia, spelled out, .org or #LoveVA.
Awesome. Well, Virginia's for lovers, and I have loved this conversation. I just, there it is. Awesome. Penelope and Rita, to both of you, I really appreciate you coming and spending an hour with me. Your insight and perspective on this interwoven economy of recreation, sports, outdoor tourism, the education element, the environmental impact of all of it. This has been a wide-ranging and really enjoyable conversation. I know that our audience has gotten a lot out of it. And so from everybody at Dominion Payroll, thank you for taking an hour out of your day today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
It was fun. Thanks, everyone. Nice to see you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Travel safely. Move about safely. Be safe.
Yep. Buckle up, wash your hands, wear a mask.
That's right. Bye-bye.
All right, to everybody out there in our audience, we appreciate you joining us. My name is Kevin Wilson, and this has been another episode of The Beacon. We do hope that you will come back and join us next week on Tuesday, February 2nd. Can't believe it's already February. Start thinking about those Valentine's Day gifts, everybody. February 2nd, on Tuesday, I have a big update on the employee retention tax credit, the second draw of PPP loans that are available now for so many of our clients and members of the business community. And we're also going to take a look ahead at what potential new federal stimulus may look like. Next up on February 3rd, Leslie Bruno will be hosting an installation of HR Matters, talking about the vaccine and your employees. What are you allowed to require? How do you navigate that as the vaccine rolls out and is more widespread? And last but certainly not least, Angie Trapp on February 4th will be doing an iSolved training. This is sort of client specific, looking at report writer, an overview on that. But if you are Dominion Payroll curious, not a client yet, this would be a good one to sign up for and just get a sense of what our cloud-based platform looks like. So once again, thank you all for joining us. As always, you can go to dominionpayroll.com, hit that COVID-19 resource at the top of your page, and you can access, you can access all the different resources and all of our upcoming webinar schedules and view past recordings. So with that, I hope everyone has a wonderful Wednesday and take care, everyone.